US military says it will begin a blockade of all Iranian ports and coastal areas on Monday, tempering President Trump's earlier vow to entirely block the strategic Strait of Hormuz. The blockade, which US Central Command said would be enforced impartially against vessels of all nations, is due to begin at 3 p.m. UK time. The move comes after marathon US-Iran ceasefire talks in Pakistan ended without reaching an agreement. Also on the evening news, Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban has been ousted after 16 years in power, with Peter Magyar's pro-European Tisza party on track to win a two-thirds majority in Parliament. Also, Northern Ireland's Rory McIlroy has won the Masters for the second year in a row. The Hollywood star became only the fourth man to win back-to-back Masters after watching a number of challengers rise and fall before taking control on the back nine to win by a shot. Also, the findings of a public inquiry into the Southport attack, which claimed the lives of 3 young girls, are to be published. The Southport inquiry heard evidence about the attack on July 29, 2024, and the involvement of state agencies with the 19-year-old killer in the lead up to it. And Paddington the Musical was the big winner at the 2026 Oliver Awards, where the West End revivals of Evita, or should I say Evita, and Into the Woods also won plaudits.
This is STV Evening News with Sarah Harris.
Good evening. US military says it will begin a blockade of Iranian ports and coastal areas on Monday, tampering President Trump's earlier vow to entirely block the strategic Strait of Hormuz. The blockade, which US Central Command said would be enforced impartially against vessels of all nations, is due to begin at 3 p.m. UK time. The move comes after marathon US-Iran ceasefire talks in Pakistan ended without reaching an agreement. Speaking late on Sunday, President Donald Trump told reporters that he is fine if Iran doesn't return to negotiations. "I don't care if they come back or not. If they don't come back, I'm fine," he said, adding that the ceasefire is holding well. Writing on his Truth Social platform, Trump said that other countries will be involved with this blockade, without elaborating further, but it is understood that the UK will not participate. Well, our political editor, Robert Peston, is with us now. Robert, blockade could further rattle global energy markets. Yes, Sarah, the announcement came after the president said he would immediately begin blockading the region after peace talks in Pakistan ended without an agreement. The president said he has instructed our navy to seek and interdict every vessel in international waters that has paid a toll to Iran. No one who pays an illegal toll will have safe passage on the high seas. Well, on Sunday, a chorus of top-ranking Iranian officials threatened retaliation to Trump's announcement of a blockade. Mohsen Rezai, a military advisor and former Revolutionary Guard commander, wrote on X that the country's armed forces had major untouched levers to counter a Hormuz blockade. He said Iran would not be coerced by tweets and imaginary plans. Iran's parliament speaker, Mohammad Bagher Quabaf, who led Iran's side in the talks, addressed Trump in a statement on his return to Iran. "If you fight, we'll fight." But in other news, which will be good news for the United Kingdom, is the Prime Minister has refused to join Donald Trump's blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, which could compound economic pain for Britons with higher petrol costs. The UK is urgently working with France and other partners to put together a wide coalition to protect freedom of navigation, a government spokesperson has said. Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron agreed on the need to work with a broad coalition of partners on the matter in a call, according to Number 10. Britain will host further talks on reopening the maritime pinch point with a coalition of countries this week. Okay, Robert Peston, thank you very much indeed. Next this evening, Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orbán has been ousted after 16 years in power, with Peter Magyar's pro-European TISA party on track to win two-thirds majority in Parliament. The bombshell election results could have global repercussions, particularly among far-right movements, which have viewed Orbán as a beacon for nationalist populism. With 98% of votes counted as around 4 a.m. local time, Hungary's electoral authority said TISA party has won 138 seats. This would give the party, a member of the European Union's centre-right Liberal Conservative European People's Party, more than two-thirds of seats required for a supermajority, which would allow it to amend Hungary's constitution and pass legislation effectively. Hungarian voters appeared to have rejected the authorisation of policies and global far-right movement that Orbán embodied during his 16 years in power. Orbán, a close ally of US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, quickly conceded defeat on Sunday night in what he called a painful election result. I congratulated the victorious party, Orbán told followers. We are going to serve the Hungarian nation and our homeland from opposition. US Vice President J.D. Vance has made a visit to Hungary just days earlier, meant to help push Orbán's over the finish line. Election victor Magyar, a former Orbán loyalist who campaigned against corruption and on everyday issues like healthcare and public transport, has pledged to rebuild Hungary's relationships with the European Union and NATO, ties that frayed under Orbán. Well, Paul Brand is here to explain more on this analysis. Paul, what is at stake and why do they matter? Well, his victory, Sarah, was expected to transform political dynamics within the EU, where Orbán had upended the bloc by frequently vetoing key decisions, prompting concerns he sought to break it up from the inside. It was also reverberate among far-right movements around the world, which have viewed Orbán as a beacon for how nationalist populism can be used to wage culture wars and leverage state power to undermine opponents. Tens of thousands of jubilant supporters gathered along the Danube River as Magyar delivered a speech telling his voters they had rewritten Hungarian history. He said, "Tonight, truth prevailed over lies. Today, we won because Hungarians didn't ask what their homeland could do for them. They asked what they could do for their homeland," he said. "You found the answer and you followed through." In an interview with the Associated Press earlier this month, Magyar said that the election will be a referendum on whether Hungary continues on its drift towards Russia under Orbán or retake its place among the democratic societies of Europe. Okay, Paul Brand, thank you very much indeed. Well, we've still got more to come on the STV Evening News, including findings of a public inquiry into Southwark attack to be published, and the Paddington Bear musical sweeps the Olivier's as Evita also triumphs. We have that story and more coming up after this very short break. Don't go away. Hello and welcome back. Northern Ireland's Rory McIlroy has won the Masters for the second year in a row. The Hollywood star became only the fourth man to win back-to-back Masters after watching a number of challengers rise and fall before taking control on the back nine to win by a shot. Rory played out a final round of 71, 1 under, 12 under overall, 1 ahead of Scotty Scheffler. There was emotional scenes at the 18th in Augusta as Rory got hugs from Mum, Rosie and Dad Jerry. I can't believe I waited 17 years to get one green jacket and get 2 in a row, he said. All my preference finally paid off. He said his final round felt pretty similar to last year's. He said he was so glad his mother and father got to be at the Augusta this year, having missed last year's triumph, saying they would enjoy the moment together. And it's only the second major win my mum's been at. She was at the Open in Hoylake in 2014, he said. There was a piece of them that didn't want to come this year after not being here last year, but I'm so glad they got to experience this today. Struggling to contain his emotions, he added, "Thank you for all the support. I was a little kid with a dream. I had amazing support from back home, and I can't thank them all back home enough." The Northern Irishman joined Jack Nicklaus 1965 and 1996, Sir Nick Faldo 1989 and 1990, and Tiger Woods 2001 and 2002 in an elite club of players to successfully defend their title at Augusta National. A year ago, he needed a playoff to complete the career Grand Slam after bogeying the last, beating Justin Rose at the first extra hole. But having ridden through a scratchy opening 6 holes where he fell 2 behind, he rediscovered the control which had seen him open up a 6-shot 36-hole advantage. Well, we've still got more to come on the evening news before the end of the programme. That including Paddington the Musical sweeps Olivier's as Evita also triumphs. See you in a moment. Don't go away. Hello and welcome back. The findings of a public inquiry into the Southport attack, which claimed the lives of 3 young girls, are to be published. The Southport inquiry heard evidence about the attack on the 29th of July 2024 and the involvement of state agencies with 19-year-old killer in the lead up to it. The killer, then 17, also attempted to murder 8 other children who cannot be named for legal reasons: class instructor Leanne Lucas and businessman John Hayes. The inquiry, held over 9 weeks at Liverpool Town Hall in 2025, heard from more than 100 witnesses, 67 who gave live evidence about topics including the killer's involvement with health services, social care and education. It also examined 3 referrals to anti-terror program Prevent, which were made and closed before he carried out the attacks. Solicitor Nicola Brooke from Brodie Jackson Centre, who represented Miss Lucas, Mr. Hayes, and another adult survivor, Heidi Liddell, said sitting through the extensive list of failings exposed during the first phase of the inquiry provoked an understandably complex mix of emotions from our clients, who battle the daily consequences of survivors' guilt. We hope the report will expose every entity that failed to act in time to prevent this catastrophic attack, and any agencies that are found to be at fault are committed to not just learning lessons, but demonstrating publicly that they are committed to taking every step to prevent such an atrocity from happening again. We cannot look back on this inquiry in years to come and summarise it as another navel-gazing exercise for the government. There is no regularity mechanism to ensure that recommendations are properly considered and acted upon. at the end of the inquiry, which is why we are strongly urging the Chair to implement a process to monitor the progress of all recommendations and provide evidence to support them, as happened at the Manchester Arena inquiry. Since that harrowing day, our clients' thoughts have remained within the bereaved and will remain so today. Chairman Sir Adrian Fulford will publish his report at midday today, 13th of April. Said the obligation was to provide answers to victims and their families. Concluding the hearings in November, he said, our principal responsibility lies to them to provide the best possible explanation as to why and how this terrible event occurred, and to brave about suggesting the changes that ought to be made to prevent, if we can, a repetition. The second phase of the inquiry will be informed by the findings of phase 1 and is expected to focus on the risk posed by young people with a fixation or obsession with acts of extreme violence. And finally, Paddington the Musical was the big winner at the 2026 Olivier Awards, or should I say the Olivier Awards, where the West End revivals of Effita and Into the Woods also won plaudits. The smash hit musical, which is adapted from the books by Michael Bond and the hit films, won in 7 categories from 11 nominations, including Best New Musical, Best Actor in a Musical, and Best Actor and Actress in a Supporting Role. It follows the adventures of the marmalade-loving bear from Peru, starring a lifelike puppet of Paddington, and also picked up the prize for the Best Costume Design, Best Set Design, and the Sir Peter Hall Award for Best Director. Paddington the Musical, which is currently being staged at the Savoy Theatre in London, features music written by McFly star Tom Fletcher, and its book was written by playwright Jessica Swale. Speaking ahead of the awards ceremony at Royal Albert Hall, Swale hailed working with Fletcher as really fun and said, "It's such a privilege to look after such a special bear. It's just been so fun. We've had the greatest adventure." And there you have it. Stephen will be here with the news at 10 at the later time of 10:15. But from all of us here on the Evening News team, bye bye.